Throughout the movie, you see a wide variety of discrimination, prejudice, and stereotyping. The first scene from the movie that I chose when two guys follow a couple to their car and hold a gun to them just because the female got closer to the man she was with, and they found her to be stereotyping them. They basically decided if she was going to be afraid that they would give her a reason to be. On page 154, it states that with inflexible stereotyping, we presume one member's behaviors represent all members' behaviors and norms of an outgroup, which is what the lady in this scene was doing. The second scene I chose is when the store owner goes to the man who did the lock on their doors at his shop's house and tries to shoot him because someone else broke in and destroyed his store, even though the man told him he needed a new door. He wanted his money back and was discriminating against the man who did the job, even though he explained the doors needed replaced. On page 160, it states that discriminatory behavior ranges from use of racist slurs to violent behavior. Sadly, here, a little girl was involved and could have been killed, all because the shop owner didn't want to listen when he was told his options. The last scene was in the gun shop when the man in the shop is being very prejudiced and saying that the man doesn't belong in our country and making very hateful comments toward him. On page 157, it discusses how prejudice is a sense of antagonistic hostility toward a group as a whole or individual because he or she is a member of that group. For question 1, sadly, I believe stereotypes, both negative and positive, do have a place in our world. Everyone tends to use them even if they don't realize they are. I believe our authors would also agree, as the book talks about how stereotypes are commonly used. For question 2, I believe stereotypes are many times learned from people you are around, such as family and friends in our community. We tend to hear them and start using them, and they spread very easily. I am a white American, so I guess that is where I would hold the strongest stereotypic image. On page 153, it states that stereotyping is inevitable and everyone does it, but the key is to learn the difference between flexible and inflexible stereotyping. For question 3, I feel I have been discriminated against due to the clothing I wore. 7th grade through 9th grade, I tend to be picked on by twin girls, and they always brought up my clothes. I loved all my clothes, but because of them, begged my mom to go and get me some name brand clothes such as Hollister and Aeropostale. On page 160, it discusses that with isolate discrimination, harmful verbal and nonverbal action is intentionally targeted toward an outgroup member, which was what was happening with me. Question 4, I honestly didn't care for a while, but eventually it got to me. It made me very upset, and I felt threatened every time they would come up to me. For question 5, in order to counteract racism or prejudice, I feel we should be sensitive to everyone around us and think before we say things. If everyone were to do this, I truly believe we wouldn't have as much of it in this world. I feel everyone is responsible for themselves for counteracting it, and that our authors would agree with this just by what I've read in the text.